Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we try to make sense of the complex world of corporate filings and give you the real story behind the numbers and legalese. So today we're diving into a massive filing of Form F4 from Alps global holding Pubco. This is a big deal because it outlines a major business combination, a merger between Global Inc. Investment Inc. and Alps Life Sciences Inc. Get ready for a ton of financial data and some juicy legal details strap in because this one is a wild ride. Before we dig in, if you love getting the inside scoop from these SEC filings, make sure you hit that subscribe button. It really helps us out, and if you want to debate these numbers and connect with other finance enthusiasts, join our Discord community linked in the description below. Alright, buckle up because this filing isn't just a regular update, it's an amendment. You see, Global Inc. Investment Inc., a company that started as a shell company meant to acquire another business, is now merging with Alps Life Sciences Inc. This is a big move for them. Global Inc. itself was formed back in March 2021 as a blank check company, basically a company formed just to raise money to find and buy another company. They had a deadline to do this, originally September 2025, and they've already extended it quite a bit. It's a race against time for them. Now, Alps Global Holding Pubco is the new entity that's going to be left standing after all this. Merger magic happens. They're aiming to be listed on NASDAQ and they hope to be a big player in the life sciences world. This whole deal is moving forward as soon as possible after the effective date of this registration statement and all the conditions under the merger agreement are met or waived. So it's a go, but with conditions. And here's an interesting point. Alps Global Holding Pubco is qualifying as an emerging growth company. This means they get to follow some slightly relaxed reporting rules that's common for newer public companies, but it's something to keep in mind about their disclosures. Let's talk about Alps Life Sciences Inc. This is the company Global Inc. is merging with. They're focused on biotechnology, with a vision for a fully integrated bench-to-bedside platform. This means they're involved from the very early stages of research all the way to getting treatments to patients. They're working on things like NK cells, CAR T cells, COVID-19, mRNA vaccines, and stem cell technologies. Now, for the numbers everyone loves to see, let's look at Alps financials for the year ended March 31, 2025. They reported a revenue of about 3.4 million USD. Now that might sound small for a company aiming for NASDAQ, but remember they're in the very early stages of product development. Most of this revenue comes from aesthetic treatments and medical services, which is smart. They're using revenue from those services to fund their research. But here's where it gets interesting. Their operating expenses were a hefty 3.9 million USD for the year. This is typical for biotech companies investing heavily in R&D. Plus they had finance costs and income tax expenses, leading to a net loss of about 2.4 million USD for the year. It's a heavy investment phase they're in. Global Inc. on the other hand has barely any revenue, just some interest income from the money they put into the trust account. That's where the money from their IPO sits. Their main goal was to find a company like Alps to merge with, and honestly their own financials show a net loss of nearly $1 million in 2024. These are typical SPAC financials, though the focus is on the deal itself. Fend. Now let's look at the combined picture after the merger. They're presenting two scenarios: no redemptions and maximum contractual redemptions. In the no redemption scenario, Alps shareholders basically own almost all of the company. About 96%. Global Inc.'s original public shareholders end up owning very little, practically nothing. Around zero redemptions happen. Global Inc.'s original shareholders still own practically nothing. It's clear who's really taking over here. This is the big number, 160 million Pubco ordinary shares held by Alps Holdco shareholders. That's 96.1% of the company, assuming no redemptions. This tells a clear story about who's in charge post-merger. This is where things get serious. Every investment has risks, and this filing details a lot of them. For Alps, they need a ton more money to finish developing their products, and they admit they might have to cut staff or even stop projects if they don't get it. They also found a major issue in their financial reporting systems called a material weakness. This means they might mess up financial reports or miss fraud, which is never a good sign for investors, never a good sign for investors. And remember, their products are all in the early stages, preclinical. They haven't even tested them on humans yet. Clinical trials are incredibly expensive and take ages, and there's no guarantee they'll even work or get approved. If these trials fail, it's a major blow. Part C, Their manufacturing is also a risk. They might rely on outside companies, and that brings its own problems like delays and quality control issues. Not to mention any mistakes in manufacturing could lead to lawsuits, Gambier, PAL, TEF. And think about patents. They're relying on licenses from others which they might lose, or those licenses might have restrictions. This is a common area of risk in biotech called PAFTI-BAT. Then there are the regulatory hurdles. The Malaysian health authorities, the NPRA, and foreign ones like the FDA have lengthy processes that are unpredictable, and they might not even accept data from trials happening outside their own countries. That's a lot of ifs, appel, eb, PAF-EF, plus the whole mRNA vaccine development is super new. There are major clinical and regulatory risks because it's such an untested area. It's a gamble. PAF-VS, and for their aesthetic services, they face intense competition. If they can't keep up with trends or customer needs, they could lose market share. Oh, and they admit they might not be able to recruit enough skilled doctors and nurses. That's pretty fundamental. That's a big problem. Chemshop. TFF, and we shouldn't forget the global market and exchange rates. RM versus USD fluctuations could hit their profits. They don't even hedge against this risk. X. PEF-F and corruption laws, these are complex, and a violation could mean huge fines and reputational damage. It's a global race to be compliant, big kilo. PPFP plus, their securities were delisted from Nasdaq. That's a big red flag. It could make it harder to complete the deal, limit investors' ability to trade shares, and lead to penny stock restrictions. Ouchquap. PyFTS, even about that December 2024 extension payment, there was an overpayment, a real mess, and they are still trying to recover that money. While it sounds small, it reveals issues with company controls. Chuchumsi, Pyfia. Now, GlobalLink itself isn't immune to risk. They have to find a company to merge with by a deadline, which they've extended several times. If they don't, they have to dissolve and give the money back to shareholders. That puts a lot of pressure on them to get this deal done, even if the terms aren't perfect. This vote is crucial for GlobalLink shareholders because if the deal doesn't go through, GlobalLink might have to liquidate, and those warrants and rights they issued might end up being worthless. Now, about the deal itself, Alps shareholders are getting newly issued Pubco ordinary shares, valuing the whole deal at $1.6 billion. That's a lot of money, but remember this structure means Alps is essentially buying GlobalLink for accounting purposes, which is a bit unusual. Let's look at the ownership pie after the merger. If no one redeems their shares, Alps shareholders will own around 9 to 96%. The original GlobalLink stockholders will own a tiny fraction less than 1%. The sponsor, who got those founder shares for almost nothing, will still own a small but profitable slice. And the companies themselves, Alps has a decent setup in Malaysia with labs and medical centers. GlobalLink is mostly just the SPAC itself with offices in Delaware. This matters for how they report to the SEC. They'll have fewer disclosure requirements than a US company. This means less transparency. That's a key point for investors to consider. This deal is a classic SPAC transaction where a shell company is merging with an operating company. Alps Life Sciences is banking on its pipeline and the growing Southeast Asian market. The financials show early stage R&D with significant investment and losses typical for biotech. However, the risks are substantial. The reliance on future funding, the early stage of their products, the regulatory hurdles, and the fact that GlobalLink's own securities were delisted from Nasdaq all point to a high-risk investment. The ownership structure after the merger heavily favors the existing Alps shareholders, leaving the original GlobalLink investors with a very diluted stake. It's a bold bet on the future of biotech and personalized medicine in a growing market, but the path ahead is far from certain. Expect volatility, and remember that disclaimer about future projections being just estimates. What are your thoughts on this merger? Let us know in the comments below. If you found this breakdown helpful, give us a thumbs up and subscribe for more corporate decoding. Don't forget to join our Discord community to keep the conversation going. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.